Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatyadeja Tarne. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let me just adjust this one more time. Hope it doesn't fall over forwards. Okay. So, devotees, thank you very much for coming this evening. Very nice to be with you all. Those of you who are following the seminar, I hope you're finding it interesting and you're learning some things from it. So we're moving on this evening to verse 7. There are only 11 verses in Nectar of Instruction, so we are over halfway. Yeah, we're more than halfway through the book, and gradually the subject matter is becoming more elevated. Yes, so it's becoming more confidential, and anyway, not so much today. This verse today is relatively easy to understand. In fact, it's a very nice verse. But after this verse, from verse 8 onwards, it really goes to a very high level. So anyway, let us read the verse itself. Syat Krishna nama charitadi sitapya vidya pito patapta rasanasya narochikanu Kint vadarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta svadvi kramad bhavati tad gadamula hantri. We read this verse during the japa, the translation. we read the translation of this verse during the japa. It's a classic. It's just a classic. It's from Srila Rupa Goswami. So, translation. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. Very nice. Right, so the first paragraph basically is an introduction, and then there's a few verses from 2 to 6. They just kind of stand on their own, you could say. But then from paragraph 7 to 10, which is the end of the purport, then there's a specific focus on different levels of Krishna consciousness. But anyway, let us start, of course, with the first paragraph. And this paragraph is, and not only this paragraph, well, the following paragraph, they're just basically repeating the message of the verse in a very direct way, just kind of paraphrasing it, and expanding it, of course. But yeah, it's like that. And then Srila Prabhupada develops the ideas more substantially after the first couple of paragraphs. So, yeah, so in my mind, it seems like the first paragraph is a type of introduction. And yes, so first thing Prabhupada says, very important, very foundational point, is that Krishna, his names, qualities, pastimes, and everything to do with him are all of the nature of the absolute truth. Yes, they are on the level, they are the absolute truth. So therefore they occupy just a unique position in reality, in existence, and of course in life and in our lives. And particularly in this Kali Yuga, seeing the Yuga Dharma is to chant the holy names of the Lord, then of course, well, anyway, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? So Krishna's holy names, Prabhupada goes on to say they're sweet. Well, as the verse said, they're sweet like sugar candy. Sugar candy means not just the sweets you buy in a shop in the Western world, but there's a particular form of sugar which is called rock candy in India. You get it in India, you don't really get it so much, I don't think, elsewhere. At least I haven't seen it. But in India, when you have sugar, like regular sugar, which people just use in their houses, just the most ordinary sugar, and which is used in sweets, including in the Western world. So, yeah, but when you take that sugar and you cook it down further until it forms lumps, it kind of, the little grains, the little grains, they start merging with each other, and you can get lumps, you can get quite big lumps, just solid sugar. And it's the most concentrated form of sugar. Just a little tip, when you go to India next, after the quarantine, lockdown, COVID-19. Anyway, it'll happen, but when it happens, if you need to buy some sugar, then, like in Vrindavan, there's a number of shops, they sell these types of things and some grains. If you go to one of those shops, and if you want like a more healthy alternative to sugar, which isn't just gur, which is, gur is nice also, but it's got, quite a taste to it, but something which has much less taste than gur, but is brownish or yellowish, and it's more healthy than sugar, ask for bura. Bura. It's nice. Anyway, we digress. So, yeah. So Krishna's names and his qualities and just everything to do with him, his form. But here, of course, the names are of special importance. And they are, anyway, the most important. Particularly in Kali Yuga, though. So, the holy names and the qualities and so on of Krishna, they're sweet like sugar candy, means they're super sweet. They're not just normal sweet. They're just like electrifyingly sweet, you could say, really high power sweetness. So yes, the holy names and the forms, etc., they're like that. They're very special, very unique. So I want to just read the verse, the translation of the verse, which I did already read, actually. But it's just so nice, and it's so relevant to this particular point about the special sweetness of the holy names. I thought we could read it again. Okay. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind. And therefore all the senses become inert. Oh, what a verse. That is just really wonderful. But obviously, it's regarding chanting on a high level. I don't think we experience it quite like that. In fact, we may often find that it's a bit of a struggle to keep our attention on the holy names. Yeah, anyway, you know what experience you have. But yeah, this is what I hear from many. So, but actually the holy name of Krishna and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is just like super sweet, just overwhelmingly sweet. Yeah. However, of course, the point here in this verse is that when someone has this particular type of disease, it's called avidya or ignorance, which, obviously we all know very well, is just so prevalent in this world. If it's overwhelming way beyond COVID-19. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't make light of COVID-19, but still, the disease of ignorance in this world, oh my gosh, it is all-pervading, both up and down, and left and right, and everywhere in between, in front, behind. So, and that disease of ignorance, it has the effect, as the verse says, it has the effect, among other things actually, it has the effect of making the experience of chanting the holy names seem to not be nice. In fact, the example is given, of course, in the verse, just like jaundice, or I think jaundice is hepatitis A, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it's the most common hepatitis that devotees get, usually only in India and that sort of place. So, yeah, so as, well, Prabhupada explains that when a person has jaundice, the material physical disease, then it affects the body in so many ways. You may have had it yourself, I don't know, but perhaps you've seen someone jaundiced, someone with hepatitis A, and the body becomes yellow, and even golden, even seriously. I saw in one case practically effulgent. Really amazing. And the eyes become so yellow. Yeah. So jaundice, hepatitis, affects the body in many ways. Of course, it, wipes a person out. They become exhausted and have to sleep. So there are many effects, but one of them is, and this is what this verse and purport are basically about. One of the effects of jaundice is that it affects the way your tongue tastes things. Your sense of taste becomes like heavily corrupted, to the point that anything sweet, like sugar candy, or just anything sweet, will taste bitter. And not just sort of, you could say, nice bitter, like Corella. Do you like Corella? I like Corella, usually. Yeah, so not nice bitter, but really like, bitter. Just like you got to spit it out. Yeah. So that's a problem. That's a problem. So ignorance has that effect on the consciousness and the hearing faculties of people in the material world. That generally speaking, the more they're afflicted by ignorance, the more they won't like the chanting of the holy names. In fact, it's like a way of measuring, you could say, how much ignorance a person has by observing what is their attitude to the chanting of the holy names. Yeah. So yes, so therefore someone in ignorance, well, I could even just mention my own experience that before coming to Krishna consciousness, in fact, some years before, actually, what would you say, about 3 years, or even 4, say 3 to 4 years, the devotees in London made that record with the help of George Harrison, and he was playing the harmonium, I think, on that song. They made the Hare Krishna record, and it became extremely popular amongst the young people in the Western world. Just very popular indeed. And I was one of the young people, and we'd hear it, on the hit parade and here and there, and generally everyone was sort of favorably disposed to it, more or less. Anyway, some years later, 3 to 4 years later, I visited the temple in London for the first time, and of course I knew the Hare Krishna mantra. I knew some things about these things. So they said, why don't you do some chanting? I was in the temple for several hours, the first day I went. And, why don't you just do some chanting? Okay. they gave me some beads and told me to chant japa on the beads. It wasn't as sort of stimulating to the senses and the mind as the singing, the song with the music and the instruments and George Harrison. Yeah. So I started chanting, and my first mistake was I thought that one round means you start from the beginning, go to the end, and come back again. Oh, Krishna. But my experience was, it was difficult to keep focused. Oh my gosh, it was so difficult. In fact, after half an hour of chanting on the beads, and my mind just zooming just everywhere practically at the same time, even though I was very attracted to Krishna consciousness, I was seriously thinking, is this for me? Or, maybe it's not my style. I should find something else, because I was looking for something spiritual. I was really looking. But anyway, my fascination with Krishna consciousness was sufficient that I persevered. So Prabhupada makes the point right in the first paragraph that despite having ignorance, the disease of ignorance as we do, despite having it, if we, Prabhupada says, with great care and attention, take to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name, and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, our ignorance will be destroyed, and our tongue will become able to taste the sweetness of all the things connected with Krishna. But Prabhupada makes the point, and it's really such an important point. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness. If we don't regularly do it, then we won't get much out of it. We may get something out of it. We will get something, but not so much that it'll really sort of break you out of your entangled situation. So let's go on to the second paragraph. So how do we recognize someone who's in this diseased condition of material consciousness, of ignorance? Well, we already mentioned their attitude towards the chanting of Hare Krishna, but that's a very specific thing. But in just a broad, general sense, how can you understand that a person's in ignorance without asking them to chant Hare Krishna? So Prabhupada makes the point that a person can be understood in the general sense to be in that diseased condition of avidya, ignorance, if the person, or when the person in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. This is, in the broad general sense, how we can appreciate the level of disease. Is it stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever? The level of the diseased condition of ignorance. A Of course, Prabhupada makes the point, these are just some general points Prabhupada is making at the beginning of the purport here. And in the second paragraph also. Our normal condition is to be Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. By constitution, we're the eternal servants of Krishna, one with him and different from him simultaneously. So, but, and of course it's but it is our general philosophy that our healthy condition of being just deeply enamored and relishing everything to do with Krishna and including the holy names in a big way. So that healthy condition is lost when we forget Krishna, of course, due to becoming attracted to the external energy. So Prabhupada again is making general points that people, they become attracted and they think that I will find my place in material life. I will find my place where I'll be safe and protected, sheltered and happy, and in that way I will live nicely. People think like this. But Prabhupada in this paragraph 2 says, this is putting your faith in durashraya. Durashraya. Ashraya, of course, means shelter. But dur, in this context, means false or bad. That Prabhupada, Prabhupada has such a way of expressing himself. He's so expert. That a person who puts his faith in durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. A candidate for hoping against hope. What a way to put it. Yes, a candidate. You know what hoping against hope means? It means that there's no hope, but you're still hoping. Shame, yeah. So the people are trying to become happy, but they're becoming baffled. They try to become happy in this way, they're baffled. In that way, they're baffled. In another way, they're baffled. And it's just going on regularly, even practically the whole time. I mean, who would have imagined that this virus would have come and the whole world would have, to a large extent, closed down? It's just unimaginable. But it's the material world. There is no limit to how bad it can become. But there are great limits to how good it can become. It can become, heavenly planets and so on. But it's very limited compared to the vast majority of what is material life. But the people, despite struggling and failing in so many ways, they don't get it. What is the root problem? The root cause of my bafflement and failing in my struggle. What is the root cause? They look to find some immediate solution here. Instead of turning the key that way, oh, I should have turned it the other way, or something like that. They're looking for solutions of that sort, but not a solution like the whole thing, the whole process of material life is just hopeless. You got to stop the whole program of material life and take to something which, at least in terms of consciousness, is much different, Krishna consciousness. Of course, you can live as a householder and so on, and it looks like material life. But if you're in Krishna consciousness, then even though you're working in some material job, your life, your consciousness, and just everything about you is very different from your typical person. Right, so, so what to do? If they're advised to take to Krishna consciousness and be happy, they can't accept. So now we go on to the next paragraph. There are 10 paragraphs, as we said. This is now we're going on to the third one. Let's have a look here. So, Prabhupada makes, a little bit in this third paragraph, a little bit controversial point, at least for devotees in some countries, where the country leadership is very, authoritarian. Yeah. Sort of not democratic, kind of semi-dictatorial political arrangements. So Prabhupada makes the point that this Krishna consciousness movement, what's it about? What are we trying to do? Well, what we're trying to do is spread to counteract and cure this otherwise hopeless ignorance, which is just undermining everything auspicious in people's lives. But there's a problem. I mean, it's a kind of a detailed point to some degree. There's a particular problem amongst many others, is that the leadership in this material world, the governments, they are blind. And they're blind, of course, because they are not Krishna conscious. Yes, and therefore Prabhupada goes on in the following paragraph to make the point that they oppose Krishna consciousness. But anyway, before we get there, Prabhupada mentions how Bhagavad Gita 7:15, very classic verse, one of the great classic verses from Bhagavad Gita, that four types of people in this world, it's extremely difficult with them to get them interested in Krishna consciousness. It's just a terrible battle, and it just may not be possible often. So let me just read the verse. It's a famous verse. Namam duskritano mudha prapadyante naradama mayaya parita jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Yes. So, unfortunately, there's a fair number of people like that in the material world. And in governments, not all. I mean, there you get some nice people in government who are very favorable to Krishna consciousness, but you get a lot who they're just in it for themselves. How can we take advantage? And what's Krishna consciousness? What on earth has it got to offer? Yeah, that sort of idea. So these four types, the mudhas, they're just stupid, foolish. The Naradamas, who are materialistic exploiters. Then the Maya Paritagyana, those whose knowledge is, those who are intelligent. They can figure many things out, but their knowledge is stolen by illusion. Materialistic philosophers, intellectuals, scientists, in many cases like this. They've got the capacity intellectually, but their knowledge is stolen by Maya, by illusion. And then what to speak of the Asura Bhava, or those who have the Asura Bhava, those who have the nature of demons. They just hate Krishna. Of course, we've come from very mixed backgrounds ourselves, and very mixed up backgrounds. Let me tell you one thing which Satsvarup Maharaj said, that Prabhupada said to him many years ago, right in the very beginning. Satsvarup Maharaj asked Prabhupada, if Krishna is all attractive, then why is it so difficult to become attracted to him? Meaning, to the point you'll just abandon everything else and just go for Krishna wholeheartedly. And you know what Prabhupada said? You know what Satsvarup Maharaj said that Prabhupada said? Sure, it's heavy. Fasten your seatbelts. Have you fastened your seatbelts? If you got two, fasten the second one too. So why, if Krishna is so attractive, all attractive, why is it so difficult to become attracted to him? Prabhupada said, because you hate Krishna. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. What can I say? Aha. Yes. So anyway, now we are, where are we? We are now coming to the fourth paragraph. We are moving down. Yeah, so Prabhupada sort of continues on from that Bhagavad Gita verse. And where are we? Yeah. That these blind leaders, don't tell the people in certain governments of the world, please, that the Hare Krishna movement says you're like this. But these blind leaders who are opposed to Krishna consciousness, they try to stop people. They try to stop the movement. They try to discourage people from getting involved. Yeah. And they try to create programs, generally they're kind of hedonistic programs, and at the very least they're just totally materialistic. So, because they're in this jaundiced condition, and all of their followers with them, because they're in this diseased condition, therefore they cannot enjoy Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy names, or, so many other aspects of Krishna consciousness. Some of them can't even enjoy prasadam. And you must know, when someone can't enjoy prasadam, they've got a serious problem. Yeah. So this is the situation. This is the situation that they're not enthusiastic to accept Krishna consciousness. Even some, if they do accept Krishna consciousness, they do it kind of begrudgingly. That, I got nothing else to do. Oh, well, if I have to, I got so smashed in material life, I've got nowhere to turn. oh, I guess I'll take to Krishna consciousness then. It's all to do with ignorance, avidya, being in this diseased condition, the material disease. But Prabhupada, just like when you got a disease, any disease, like this current disease, medicine, you need medicine. Unfortunately, they haven't figured out yet what medicine can help. We assume they'll figure it out sooner or later. But right now, to our knowledge, there's just no clear idea of what might be, like a really effective medicine to either to vaccinate a person against getting it or to cure a person once they've got it. So, with this disease, avidya, we must know, people need to know that there is a medicine. There is one medicine, really. One very specific medicine which will cure this disease of avidya. Just like if you become jaundice, get hepatitis, then traditionally at least, and Prabhupada emphasizes it quite a bit in the purport, traditionally people would be given sugar candy, like condensed sugar, high power sugar. And of course, like it was already said, initially it's just like, oh, I don't want to take, how can I take this? But it's the medicine. So in chanting, in Krishna, in regards to Krishna consciousness, the medicine is chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada said, is the only medicine for setting the world aright, putting things right. So, of course, in the beginning, just like with this sugar candy and the hepatitis, it's not very palatable. But if you persevere and tolerate the unpleasant taste, then step by step, you'll start feeling better. And part of the symptoms that your disease of jaundice, of hepatitis, is being cured is that now the sugar candy you're taking will stop tasting so bitter. And gradually it'll become an acceptable taste. And then gradually it'll become sweet. And as you actually taste it as being sweet, that means you're on the road to recovery. So similarly, with chanting Hare Krishna, it may not be very palatable, you could say, for some people or in the beginning. But you just got to do it. You just got to do it because you know what is said, Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Eva Kevalam. The chanting is the only way, particularly in Kali Yuga. So if you want to get out of the disease of ignorance, you got to chant, even though it may seem unpleasant, and you may struggle with it initially, but persevere. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Old saying. Yes, so, like this. And of course, this the sort of unpalatableness of the chanting is also reflected in devotees' experiences, often at least, in the beginning, in regard to certain other aspects of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada mentions in the beginning, it might be the first or second chapter perhaps, I think second chapter of Nectar of Devotion, that in the beginning, the spiritual master orders, you must get up early in the morning. But when you wake up early in the morning, you may not want to get up. But understanding that this is part of the medicine, you must get up. Yeah. And, abstaining from certain things, having to do certain other things. This may not be palatable, and maybe particularly the chanting. But Vaidhi sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi sadhana bhakti means you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Even though it may not be so pleasant sometimes. But if you keep doing it, then it won't take long. It doesn't take a long time. You'll start getting some nectar. And then you'll start realizing, hey, actually, this is good. It was worth taking a little difficulty to get this. Yeah. So, yes. So it works like that. I thought of another example. With respect and affection. The Christians, so many of them, particularly the born-again ones, but many Christians, they're not favorably disposed towards chanting Hare Krishna. That is our experience. And Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, when he would preach to Christians, he would tell them something every time which was very unpalatable to them. But it's something that they have to learn. They must learn, otherwise they won't get out of the sort of, not so good. I mean, it's not too bad in certain ways, but in certain ways it is bad, like they're anti-Krishna, anti-chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada would present a certain point which to them they don't want to accept, but they need to accept it if they're going to make progress in just being Christians. And that is that Prabhupada would challenge them. What about this commandment? I think it's the 5th. Thou shalt not kill. And referring, and he would say it refers also to animals, which of course it does. And the Christians, they would try, to oppose that idea. But they wouldn't get far with Prabhupada at all. And Prabhupada would persist. He would keep on this point. And I've even heard Prabhupada with such a person. The person realizes, Prabhupada, I can't convince Prabhupada that it might be okay to eat meat. So then they say to Prabhupada, then the person said to Prabhupada, all right, okay, let's discuss another aspect of it. But Prabhupada would not let them escape. He would keep on that point. That what's the point of discussing some other aspect when this thing is just so wrong? It's so it's ruining their prospects of advancement. Oh, Krishna. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, Prabhupada wouldn't give up. He wouldn't give up. He'd just carry on. Boy, what are these people doing? It's okay. There's little messages coming up. All right, anyway, so there's some points. Let's just quickly look at the next paragraph, 5. It's very short. And the real disease is in the heart. There's a condition. It's not just a matter of mental adjustments, but the condition of the heart, our spiritual condition, has to be improved. It's really important. Then we become free from the material disease. Yeah. So to do that, well, again, the same point. We must chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada says, actually, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is immediately freed from the blazing fire of material existence. Hare Krishna. I think that's a nice note to finish on for the evening. So we'll carry on from verse 6, go from verse 6 to verse 10 tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki